Joining us now is Atlantic staff writer and MSNBC political contributor and our good friend, Mark Leibovich. He's also the author of the book, Thank You for Your Servitude. Mark, welcome to you. So some of these companies which made January 6 related pledges, and they include Goldman Sachs, General Motors, Bank of America, they're now each giving $1 million to the inauguration. Do you see this as anything less than a pay-to-play kind of move? I mean, what does it indicate about how corporate America expects its relationship with the incoming administration to play out?
Well, I mean, it's first of all, I mean, it's a little quaint to even talk about, norms and so forth and pay to play. I mean, this is obviously a completely different universe than what we were all experiencing 4 years ago, almost to the day, this year or this week. So, I mean, look, I mean, there's obviously been a retrenchment. I mean, obviously he's been forgiven for this. I mean, he's been forgiven by the biggest force out there, which is the American electorate. And it makes sense that corporate America is going to follow suit. And I think that's reflected in this, whether there's an actual pay-to-play going on, whether someone is actually, communicating with these companies and saying, well, if you give this, you will get that. It's hard for me to say, but obviously the norms that we've talked about for centuries or decades certainly are in a very new place now that Donald Trump has not only been in power, but is back in power.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's true. I mean, you can't know for sure if there is a official pay-to-play, but I mean, corporations could be hedging their bets, right? So there's that. There's also no sign that Trump is slowing down his peddling of Trump-branded merchandise. In fact, it seems like he's ramping it up. Besides the usual MAGA hats and coffee mugs, and there's other more swanky merch, which includes, ready for it, $299 Trump crypto president sneakers and his $199 victory cologne. Goodness knows what that smells like. But anyway, how significant is the money that Trump makes from merchandising compared to his other businesses? And would this be normal for anyone but Donald Trump?
Oh, of course not. No, I mean, but we started having this discussion, 8, 9 years ago now at this point. This is just the next iteration of it. I mean, we didn't hear anything about crypto 8, 9 years ago, but this is all, on brand. And it just seems like we've had a 4-year interruption of what something that felt like more normal administration was like under the Biden years. Now we're back to this. I obviously don't think that things like ethical norms or norms in general or how things have traditionally been done certainly applies to Donald Trump, and I don't think we should have any reason to be surprised that this is happening now.
Now, this is interesting because the New York Times recently reported that the identities of Trump's merchandise business partners, they're shielded through limited liability companies, LLCs, which are structured to allow those partners to remain anonymous. Times reporters who tried to track down the Wyoming address, for example, of a couple of these LLCs found rural strip malls or buildings populated by unrelated businesses. So, Mark, what do you make of the opaque nature of these operations?
I think the opaque nature of it goes back to the fact that Trump world believes, and perhaps correctly, that they have a permission structure to do whatever they want, that the quaint sort of rules of this game don't apply anymore. And again, they've been forgiven by the American electorate, which is really all they care about. And they have 4 years in power, and it's not like he's going to be impeached over this. And he's kind of, oversight exists certainly in Congress. So, look, I just feel like, Donald Trump, his MO is going to be to do what he can get away with. And this is sort of an example of that.
In your most recent article, which I'm looking at and I want to get into here with you, you explore what politicians mean when they say, we need to start an important conversation about any particular issue that's long overdue. Right now, Democrats in their post-election slump seem to be the ones asking variations of this question. But what are politicians signaling when they call for these conversations, which you say never actually happen? How does this fit into the current dilemma that the Democratic Party is in?
Yeah, that's a good way of framing the question. I mean, obviously, people who have sat in this seat and who you have interviewed many times have tried to, mostly elected people, have dodged questions by sort of saying, well, I think the conversation we have to have, rather than stating an opinion on something, they will sort of kick it forward and defer and try to, just not answer the question. I think what we've seen is meet my cat. Oh boy, that's embarrassing.
I love your cat. Okay, go ahead. Finish the important stuff.
Democrat. I was hoping that would never happen. Democrats have been sort of putting off like who they're going to lead into the future, who is going to be their leader going forward. clearly, I mean, the conversation about Joe Biden's age is something that put Kamala Harris in a terrible position, which by in large has put them in the position they're in now. I think at some point Democrats have to get on with the future, and there have been a lot of conversations that they have used to put off and haven't really gone there yet.
Okay. Can I just ask your cat's name while I show you? Ready for it? My cat.
Yeah.
That's
oh my
Tigger.
God, yeah. Yeah,
See?
that was
We love cats.
Eloise. That was an amazing moment for me that I did not expect would ever happen. But with that, Alex, I want to wish you a happy new year, because I think this is my last appearance on your show. And
Well, it probably
Eloise
is,
also
'cause-
wishes you a happy new year.
Well, then I will see you in the new year for sure. And your cat's welcome anytime in the show as well. We all love cats.
I
Thank
look
you.
forward to it. Thanks, Alex.
It is one